Gaming NBS episode 163 coming to you Halloween, October 31st, 2017. Welcome to Gaming NBS, a tabletop RPG podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Sean.
And I'm Brett. Welcome to the show. Welcome back if you've been with us before. Glad to have you on board.
Thanks, Brett.
Well, it's nice. No, dude, it's like this is like damn near Gamehole Con Eve, right? I mean, Gamehole Con is in 4 days. So from at least the day we're recording this, by the time this drops, it's like in 2 days. So November 2nd, brother. 2017, Gamehole Con, Land Energy Center.
So, man.
Are you ready? No.
So I have to read my adventure one more time and make sure I have everything printed off that I need. Otherwise, yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready, man.
I'm pretty good. I think I'm set. There are some. It's the print offs that I'm gonna have to make sure I've got right. The pre-gens are good. We're solid there. I want to make sure for Iron Shoes, and I got that printed out just so I've got the notes, bullet points, because, fuck the rules, I'll do whatever I want anyway. But then for Wraith, I want to make sure I have my list of stuff so I don't go too crazy. Because I found out, I think I mentioned this last time, I inadvertently, when you register for a game, they say, hey, when would you like the game to start? Or what are your alternate times? Apparently my like and alternate times, when combined in the right order between the two games are running, equal 8 hours of game mastering. Yeah, so Avalon for 4 hours, P-Break, and then Wraith for 4 hours. And then immediately after that, run to the free beer on Saturday, because I'm going to need to wet my whistle at that point.
Sweet.
So yeah, looking forward to it. It should be fun. Let's see here. Announcement stuff. Speaking of fun, cool cons, Evercon is still coming. It's happening in January. And we got Alex Kamer. Yes, thank you. That's very nice. Alex and I have been talking offline what he's going to help run for us. I got a bunch of other guys. BSers, my gaming group, and other folks ready to run some games, show up, have some fun with us. It would be great to have more BSers there if possible. Obviously, not everybody who listens to us could get to Central Wisconsin in January, but if you can, it'll be awesome. So, evercon.org, cruise out there, take a look. And other things that's fun for me anyway, the Avalon Kickstarter continues to progress. I had another discussion with the Encoded Designs crew. Bob, Phil, and Chris and I got together on Friday and talked about getting the manuscript that I've given them into editing and making sure that we can get things crunched through, working through who do we want the book printed through so that we make sure we've got all those costs and things locked and loaded, ticked and tied so we have our shit together. Because the last thing you want to do is, you've all heard me bitch about a Kickstarter before. Last thing you want to do is run a Kickstarter and go, I don't know where I'll be printing this. Where you plan to have that stuff lined out ahead of time. So far, so good. I'm pretty pleased with how it's going.
It's fantastic, Brett.
I'm pretty happy with it. Anything new with you, Sean? Anything cool, fun, announcement-wise? Anything?
No. I don't think I have anything to share.
Aw. We'll come up with something next time. It's like your homework assignment. Do something interesting, would you?
I may embarrass my wife.
Yeah? What?
So, Pat Kilbane.
Yes.
He is, for those of you that know Pat Kilbane or who he is, if you grew up in the 80s, you may know him from Mad TV. So Pat has been to GaryCon a couple times, I think. And he does, I think, a documentary on some role-playing game and role-play gaming. And so he's a guest at Gamehole Con.
Okay.
And some guests need to be picked up at the airport.
You picking them up?
So I volunteered, and I'm picking up Pat.
You gonna bring your wife with you?
So I told my wife, she's kind of a fan. I said, hey, how would you like to pick up Pat Kilbane at the airport? And she says, oh, my God, no. She goes, eek. She's very bashful.
Oh.
So I said, you got to come along. Oh, no, I'd be so embarrassed.
Okay.
He gets in really late, and I said, she's got to work the next day. I said, so do I. So I gave her an ultimatum.
Uh-oh.
She can either go with me to the airport
Or...
I bring Pat Kilbane to our house.
We bumped into Pat last year, or I should say early 2017 at GaryCon. Super, super nice, friendly guy. He was it's just cool to talk to. We just stopped and bullshit with us for a little bit, and Alex and the guys. So I could see from what little interaction we've had, Pat going, yeah, that'd be fun. I'll go freak your wife out. Just show up at your house. That'd be awesome.
He's a homeboy. He's from Wisconsin.
Yes, he is.
So at least he went to school at Beloit College. So I told her. So I said, it's up to you. If you want to be in your PJs, chilling out on the couch, and have me have Pat Kilbane walk into our house, that's up to you.
And it's not like he can hide really well either, because he's like half a head or a head taller than I am. He's a tall dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know he'd do it, too.
Oh, yeah.
Like, hey, Pat, I got to swing back by my house quick. It's, like, not really out of the way.
Yeah, I just need you to shock the hell out of my wife. Is that cool? He'd be like, yeah! Oh, this would be fun. Okay, all right.
We'll see how it goes.
Let us know how if you show up at Game.com with a black eye, I'll know it went well. All right.
Or not showing up at all.
I'll have to go pick you up from the ER or something. Yeah.
That's right. All right, let's get into Random Encounter.
All right, off we go.
Random Encounter. Got feedback from episode 162, West Marches.
Yeah, let's see. What do we got here? Blake Ryan on the West Marches says, the problem I see is if the quest is not finished by the end of game time, do you abbreviate the quest? This cheapens the challenge, eventually kills enthusiasm. If you leave the PCs hanging out in the wilderness on pause, what happens if someone from that game can play again, but another player who was there cannot? You could have players have two characters each, but then you can get into which character knows what, which character is doing what and where. Not saying it can't be done, only the GM needs to keep track of stuff or it fails. I would love to run a West Marches game. However, some players are either not organized or not initiators and like to react to GM prompts and follow the bouncing ball. For someone like me who loves the game, missing a session because players can't get their shit together is frustrating to say the least. What I generally do is schedule a session, remind them of ongoing quests, and offer a new quest, and let them decide from there. So, Blake, I think what you're saying is a very good point. I mean, if you have a gaming group that you're used to and that you work with, you know how those men and women function, like my home crew. I know how they work. I know what would work with them. A West Marches game for them, I could totally do it if I set it up right, i.e., up front, everybody agreed, off we go. But, that question there, what happens if you don't finish the quest? I think that's a good point. Not every quest is completable in a single session. So that is definitely something that you'd have to keep track of with your crew. So that does make sense. I like that.
I would just make it a rule that if we didn't finish the session wherever we were, that's where they would end. And then nobody would know what happened to them.
You either finish the quest or you just
roll them up. Roll up another one.
Or you're just those characters that never made it back. They went to the dungeon of, the invisible closet and never came home again. Dun, dun, dun. Interesting.
Maybe. I don't know.
Next one's for you.
Interesting stuff. It's a good one to manage, though.
It is.
Jason Hobbs. My online games are often scheduled for 2 hours, but can tumble into 2.5 or 3 hours. I find it's pretty great. Longer sessions drain me, to be honest. I haven't gotten to the main topic yet, but Strange Stars is a good OSR systemless setting.
Nice. I've not heard of Strange Stars.
Neither have I.
And Hobbs does play a lot of online games, which is why we kind of shouted out to him asking what he did. I think that we said this when we were talking about online game time. If you say 2 hours and then have it as a regularly scheduled thing, or whatever it is, game night's 2 hours long online, with the potential to spill over, I think that makes sense, because you get cooking, you're rolling, you're having a good time, it's 10 o'clock, whatever, go for another half hour. I don't have to get up that early for work, or whatever the case is. So exactly. So thank you, Mr. Hobbs. Be good to see you at GameholeCon this coming week. So we'll see you there, brother. Christopher Gray steps up and says, thoughts on online gaming. I run a 3 to 3.5 hour game of D&D 5e and find it is ample. One difference between face-to-face and online is that there's typically far less chit-chat. You basically get right down to business. I could see a 2 to 2.5 hour game working for 5e up to a certain level, but 3 would be more comfortable. You know, honestly, Christopher, I should probably call you Christopher because I don't know if you prefer Chris or Christopher. But anyway, Mr. Gray, I would probably be in your camp and leaning towards a 3 to 4 hour game type of thing. Part of that is for me because I'm not gaming every week. When you're coming in every other week, thinking 3 to 3.5 or 4 hours feels about right. But if it was every week, I could potentially see a 2 to 2.5 hour type game. But I think I'm more in Mr. Gray's camp on that one.
Yes, range varies.
Yeah.
Size varies.
The mileage may vary, whatever.
Mileage may vary. Things may vary.
Sean's tired. Moving on.
Yeah. Roger Brasley continues, I would imagine some character takeoff in levels faster than others in this type of game. One person's always available to play and therefore rakes in more XP than the other players. By the way, I want in on Sean's game too.
Nice.
Said 2, which means there's somebody else that wanted to be in it too.
I think I warned that other person off, so it might just be you and Roger at this point.
That could be. But yes, that is a very good point, Roger. It sounds to me like there's a little bit of management in that perspective, but you could always set levels. Or you know what? You don't have to in a West Marches game. So if somebody's going to rapidly climb the ladder,
yeah,
fine, right? They're still going to end up adventuring with potentially first level dweebs. And since you don't necessarily have to scale encounters, hey.
I mean, the other piece too is we've talked about this a little bit with mismatch in level and those type, or power level or power creep in various different games with characters like this. You could potentially have, Phytor is just wailing the shit out of the kobolds in your first level. Dwarf, elf, and, thief are like, oh my god, thank god I brought Phytor because he's doing all the work. Well, Game Master, you would have to make sure that each session has plenty of opportunity for the other player characters to get some spotlight. So Phytor can't just punch everything in the face. There's some clever stuff that has to happen, and so on and so forth. The other piece is watch that level climb too, right? As a Game Master, you can do such things as, hey, you did adventure with your 5th level, you adventure with a bunch of 2nd level people, and guess what? No XP for you. They're 2 levels behind you. You don't get anything unless they're only 1 level behind you. I mean, there's rules and things you can put in a place like that.
That's a very good one, Brett. I like that one.
Because then you show up and you help them stomp the living shit out of it, and you may get some treasure for it, but you don't get any big power boost. So that's a potential thing, too.
I like that.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, you could come along, but you're not going to get anything out of it.
Yeah, other than you've helped them out and you've built a good rapport and had fun playing.
Oh, I like that, Brett. Good job.
Thanks, man.
Did you just come up with that?
I totally just came up with that.
That's freaking amazing,
Spitting diamonds.
Crazy. All right.
Spitting diamonds.
We got an audio from Eric Frankhouse. Here he comes.
Hey, Brett and Sean, this is Eric from EFP calling in about the idea of group play, community play for a campaign setting. And you asked if other people are doing this, and the answer is yes. For example, Runner Hub Online uses Reddit to put runs together and get everybody involved. The GMs post up the mission, and then they look through the people who post to do the run as they are the Johnson, and then they make the decision if they should be in the run or not. They use Google Calendar to post up what all the runs are that are available for that month. You sign up for them. You get to play one immediately, and then they try to take people on who haven't played that month or that week yet. And that's kind of the order of operations to make sure everybody plays. With 10 people, you're not going to have to worry about that as much. I think the rules that you're going to have to think about are minimum and maximum for parties. I think you're going to have to decide what system, and then make sure that you put some caps on things. So, for example, again, in Runner Hub, people can't play certain meta variants. It brings a certain personality type and a certain group of people. So, for example, let's talk about some of Forgotten Realms. Everyone wants to play a drow. You don't want everyone playing a drow. And the way they did this is by saying, hey, you have to have X amount of experience or karma in Shadowrun on a character before you can play higher end meta variants. You can do the same thing. Maybe once you hit 6th level, you can make a different character, retire one, and continue playing that character with a group. It's no different than what you do with Pathfinder Society. The idea of the map being open and the players doing things, you're going to need a way for them to fill out the map. So you'd need someone to be assigned as a cartographer, kind of like filling things out and saying, look what we found here. Here's the reports I got in. I'm putting a mark here. Cool concept. I think you just have an image that gets uploaded after every game. And then whoever the journaler is or the note taker is sends notes to that cartographer and they fill it out. Great concept. You know I'm in. And if you end up blowing it up larger, think maybe instead of 8 to 10, maybe for every GM that there is, there can be 6 people in the group to make sure that people can always play. So for every GM, you got 6 players, maybe 8, since they can't always play. Talk to you guys later. Love the show. Keep on rocking.
All right. Always good to hear from Eric.
Yeah, I mean, dude knows his stuff. He's gonna, if he's not at Gamehole Con, I'll eat my hat. He's always there, and he's a good game master. He knows his stuff when it comes to gaming, so he's a good guy. Always has good input.
This year, I vow to be in one of your games, Eric, because I am only running one, and I have, other than recording some sessions, panels, I am completely open. So I always say this every fucking year that I see them, but this year. But anyways, yeah, Shadowrun's perfect for this type of game, especially when you just post runs and it's kind of almost with the genre. Shit, you could put up a website with like black and green text and put up the runs.
Totally good, yeah.
Contact Mr. Johnson. Next meeting for Mr. Johnson or next rendezvous for this mission. Blah blah blah, and you could do it meta within the game.
I like that
because it's cyberpunk, man.
It totally is. It's well within genre. I like that. That's a nice idea.
All right. Thanks for the voicemail, Eric, and hope to see you at Gamehole Con. Next one, we've got Chris Schwarb calling one in. Let me get Chris's up here.
Hey guys, Chris Schwarb here. Just calling in. Just finished listening to your West Marches episode. Really interesting stuff. I was thinking about it and would be really. I'm very intrigued about trying it out. I'm actually part of 2 different D&D groups or RPG groups. I guess the one thing that I would be interested in hearing other people's experiences are how to get your players to actually buy in, because they will need to do a lot more work in that sort of style of campaign. And I have found that players, about half the players in the groups that I'm in are pretty not super engaged and don't really work too hard to play. And so I guess they want to play, but they don't do a lot of organizing. So I'm just wondering how you overcome that situation. Otherwise, awesome show. I had seen Matt Coville's video before, but I'm going to go watch it again. And maybe I'll try it after all. Anyways, hope you guys have a great day. Wish I could be there at Gamehole Con this weekend, but I just had PineCon last weekend and it was great. So you guys have a good one. Bye-bye.
Yeah, thanks, Chris, for the voicemail.
I tell you,
it is
the perennial complaint that players suck, right? I.e., we players. I mean, not that they suck, right? But like, damn it, they're just not doing this. Oh, they're not motivated. Blah blah. I wonder if some of that gets solved if you said, "Look, if I only took players who are also game masters," right? Because it's like if you're a game master, you have this tendency to say, "Look, shit's got to get done. I'm gonna, pull my stuff together, make it happen, bing, bang, boom, out we go." And then part of me is like, I wonder sometimes if game masters might be like, look, this is an opportunity for game masters to play. No one else allowed to be that guy, but it just makes me think about that. Anyway.
I was thinking about this, Brett, and you just reminded me to bring it up is, maybe instead of the DCC or Dungeon Crawl Classics player character funnel, you run a player funnel. I'll give you an example. Ready?
Go for it.
So you throw it out there and say, You put out a survey. I'm going to run a West Marches campaign. Who is interested? Here, right? Okay. Then you go to the next one. All right, please go to this sub forum, right? Give only those people that said yes to the access to that. Then you go, all right, how many of you have game mastered before? Here. Okay. Next, all right, all you people go over to this
It's a funnel. It's an experience-based funnel for the players.
How many of you are willing or able to play once every 2 to 3 weeks, right? Not a hard and fast, because West March isn't like that. And they say, here. And then you go, okay. And then you move them over into the next forum. And then you pose another question, like very simple yes/no question. And then when you're done, after your series of 5 to 10 questions, you have a group.
That could work.
I mean, it's just an idea, because it is kind of one of those things where I think that it's not always just the players. Like Chris is like, my players aren't really overly enthusiastic about getting involved. Well, okay, so the West Marches game isn't probably going to be up their alley. They're either just not going to grok it. They're going to be like, well, that's not what we do. We show up, you run the game, which is the complete opposite of what it's supposed to be. And that's why, that's why it's been proposed. And that's what Matt's thing is all about. So not every style game is going to fit a game group, but keep in mind that the West Marches style game is to, really kind of expand your group, play with lots of different players. Really. He even says that in the video, Matt Colville. He's like, I want to play with a lot of different people.
Yeah, he's got a ton of people he wants to play with, and it's hard to do that when you have one game you're running all the time.
One group.
This is basically running multiple games essentially at the same time.
It's kind of almost, too, like, Eric mentioned it briefly, and everybody probably understands that, is it's not wholly dissimilar from an organized play, except you're an organized play of one game master, and potentially maybe 2 or 3 if you want to rotate the game master. But it is essentially, to some degree, kind of a living campaign, organized play to some degree, because you could set some house rules. But the difference is it's not governed by Paizo or WotC or whoever, Catalyst Games, who runs Shadowrun. They have an organized play. So then you just kind of do it your own kind of organized play. You could stipulate character. I mean, it is really just throw down like your organized player reference guide, which is all the home rules and character generation and what happens when a character dies and, what happens if you've got like a discrepancy. I mean, going back to what you said, Brett, what happens when you have that one that shows up all the time and gets leveled? Well, maybe they can't game with lower level. Like if the gap is more than 2 levels, they can't go out on an adventure with the lower level group. For whatever reason. Just make it a rule. It doesn't have to even make sense. There's all kinds of shit.
Yeah, no, it's... I guess the important thing is that perhaps out of all this, the traditional method of gaming face-to-face is obviously not the only method. We have online gaming and various other components. And even that way, we can make it more of this type of... The West March is a different out-of-the-box type of approach to pulling things together. I'm sure other people are indeed doing other things, as even for Shadowrun, like Eric talked about. So this is cool stuff. It's neat. It's not like mind-blowing, oh my god, I've never thought about gaming like this, but it's another way, even if you don't do it as written, right? Just taking it and saying, I'm going to flip this a little bit. I'm going to make this a little bit different for my group. And I like it. I think it's a good idea. All this stuff is great. Even if you take just bits and pieces and try to implement a chunk of it.
Right. And Hobbs is probably the one that we know personally that's running something as close to this type of format as anyone. I mean, I know there's other people doing it, but Jason does a pretty decent job with his Kalmata. And he's always like very open to people joining if they want to, and he just runs that. And he runs kind of loose, like it's not hard and fast. Like, hey, here's the big lowdown, But, anyways, good stuff.
Very good.
All right, let's get on to the main topic.
Let's do that.
All right, Brett. What the hell are we talking about this week? Damn it.
Well, Michael Parker had written to us and was talking about play-by-post. And this is something that I've dabbled with. I know you talked about it, Sean, a little bit when Michael wrote in to us and one of our...
Do you think he's related to Peter?
No, two totally different Parker families. He's West Side Parkers. The other one's East Coast.
Oh.
Do your fucking research, man.
Good to... Jesus. Sorry, Stanley.
So let's dig into this a little bit. So, Sean, when someone says play-by-post, I recall back in the day, I am old enough, and Sean, you're old enough, obviously, where we can remember in Dungeon Magazine or Dragon Magazine seeing play-by-mail. Like, literally post, as in putting fucking postage on shit. There was wargaming and role-playing games that happened. There was a Hyperborean one set in the Conan setting that was play-by-mail.
Well, that's a very good point, Brett, because post is what is referred to as mail in a lot of other countries. And we say in America it came via mail, came up through U.S. Postal Service, snail mail. But in a lot of other countries, it's post.
Yeah.
It came through the post. The post delivered it. I got it, via post.
So
play by post in some countries is like, holy shit, man, I got to write in and send it in an envelope?
There was a role-playing game system, I think it's called De Profundis, I believe. It is a Lovecraftian style, and the idea is to actually physically handwrite, no typing allowed type of thing. You handwrite letters back and forth, a la Whispers in the Darkness, which is an H.P. Lovecraft story, where one person's writing a letter to another person about something horrible that's happening to them, and you're gaming through this method. There's, obviously, De Profundis has its own rule set and so forth. I'll have to see if that's still out there somewhere. Anyway, apart from that very old school method where you write a letter, put it stick a stamp on it or whatever, and send it to somebody. Usually today, when people are talking about play by post, they're talking about either play by email or actually a post that you put on a Google Plus community or a Facebook community or some kind of a chat room. And I think message board, yeah. So anyway, Sean, I know this still happens, right? People do plenty of play-by-post gaming and so on. Are you involved in any of that right now, or is that kind of gone by the wayside for you?
I am currently not involved in any type of play-by-post online RPG game.
Is there a reason why you're not? Simply lack of interest or time, or what's keeping you from it?
I don't know. I don't think it's ever been. I don't think I've considered it. I don't think I've considered running one, and I don't think I've jumped on one. I would say that it is not a huge appeal to me at the moment.
So I'll tell you the thing, I ran a couple different ones for my home group because we can only get together once a month, and some of the guys wanted to keep doing some stuff in my Avalon setting. And Lenny and Beta had Newton Beecher, and they want to keep doing some stuff. The two characters had left the city and were off exploring the Outlands. And we would have these flurries of activity in this community I'd built in Google Plus about activity back and forth. It was very ad hoc, and Lenny would be bored at work one day, and you get the G Plus message. You're like, I got nothing to do today at work either. It's slow. It's over the holidays. There's not much going on, maybe between projects. So then we'd have this burst of, 20, 30 posts or something for like 2 weeks, and then it would kind of go away. So I think when I've tried to organize one, the thing that usually gets us has been the expectation setting around irregular cadence, where I have not had the problem. We'll talk about rules and such in a second, but I don't normally run into the problems or how we'll, determine differences or who wins or who loses or what spells do and blah, blah, blah. The problem has been somebody puts a post out there. You're waiting for Brett to respond. Brett gets tied up at work, has 2 sick kids at home, wife is out of town. Brett doesn't respond for 2 weeks, and people forget the game even exists, or people get, bent out of shape, or hurt feelings, and then you're like, I'm sorry, I'm back. Where were we? Oh, yeah, okay, I do this. And it feels disjointed in that case. So I honestly think that if you're going to do it, apart from determining, what kind of system you want to work, how you'd like to do skill checks, combat, you're going to go completely narrative and so on, a cadence is important. Where even if it's kind of like the Wes Marches thing in a way, right? Where you look at it and say, hey, if you're having a social interaction, and Sean's character is talking to Lenny, and Lenny introduces him to an NPC, and the three of us start chatting. Sean can't make it for a week because of work, or he's out of town, or on vacation, or gets sick. No big deal. It's a social interaction. We can always pick up. If a combat happens, though, we need to be able to resolve the combat fairly quickly, because that'd be like, cutting a big battle scene snip and then saying, "Oh, I'm sorry, the projector broke. We'll come back to it in an hour or two." So honestly, in my experience, the thing that's kept me from it has been my ability to devote the time to it. That's what keeps me from it more than anything else.
Yeah. I mean, that doesn't help matters on my end for sure.
It's goofy because you think, well, I'm online anyway. I'm already checking Facebook. I'm on Google Plus. I'm posting in the community. I'm on Twitter anyway. I could easily get another game going, or I could do this simple play-by-post thing. But it's a time sink, right? Not a bad time sink because it's fucking gaming. Gaming is awesome in damn near every format I've ever tried it in. But it is a time commitment. More probably better phrase than sink. It's a time commitment. And if you don't have the time to commit to it, or you and the cadre you're playing with don't have the time, not a good idea. The other component, too, is size of number of players.
Well, hold
Sorry,
on.
go ahead.
I want to mention something on the time piece.
Go for it.
Because somebody may say, well, it's good because you can make time.
True, absolutely.
For a play-by-post.
Absolutely.
Right? I can't do face-to-face. I can't show up week to week. And I think it's almost like with play-by-post, it can be more, I don't know if micro game is the proper terminology that I want to use, but it can be a little bit in the minutia.
Yeah.
And I just say that I can't make a 2-hour game. I can't make a 2 or 3 hour game once a week or once every other week. And an 8-hour commitment once a month is even too much. But I get these little weird convenient slots, right? Mm-hmm. Where I wake up early Saturday morning, nobody else does but me, or I work third shift. So the time schedule for me and the rest of the group is off. But I can always find time to type in a 10-minute post.
That's a very good point. I mean, so when I'm saying that the turnoff for me is the time commitment, for somebody else, that may be the absolute best selling point for it. So thank God I can actually carve out the right time in my schedule to do this, because when I'm available is 3 a.m, based on what I'm doing for work or how my cutovers are going this week or whatever's happening. Hey, that's just the perfect time for me. Or you're in Australia, somebody's in Taiwan, someone's in Germany. Time zones, fucking A, hard as hell, to get people lined up and in one place. So, yes, the time commitment, downside for Brett, but it may be an upside for somebody else, which is the perfect solution type of thing. So that's a very good point, Sean. Thank you. I think when we talk about group, in my experience, anything more than a handful, and I'm talking like 4 players tops. Damn it. Allergies are kicking my ass. 4 players tops, I think, is about it. I've tried it before with like 5 or 6, and it gets really, really, really clunky. At a table, you can have 5 or 6 people, maybe 8. I've had my big ass groups of 13 or whatever you're doing, name your mini LARP type of thing. But I think when you're doing this, it's easier to organize and coordinate, partly because what you said, Sean, is dead on. In my experience, anyway, it's been very small type of storylines. Where it's been you're talking to a person and it could last 10 posts, right? It feels very intimate, very, very one-on-one in a very private environment. And having, 6-8 people all clamoring for attention and so forth, it might not be the right move. So I would watch the number of people, at least start small and maybe determine if you could add more later. But I would think 3, maybe 4 would top it out for me.
Yeah, this would be a situation where I would not want to go very high at all. I mean, even a 2-player play-by-post might be interesting, but you get too many, and the structure, timing when they post, and what's it being handled, and then as a game master, just remember, you're potentially replying to each one separately in text.
Yes.
So while I could sit here and talk to Brett for an hour, if I were to type up this show, hopefully it would take me the same amount of time. But, I'm also one of those folks that if I'm writing a post online for anything, and it's any length of time, I should say, even a blog entry, I may read that thing 3 or 4 times to make sure that it reads properly. So I'm like constantly backspacing. You do that for like 5 players, man, I'll be there all day.
It's very true. That's very true. And, because if you say something, shit, how many times has somebody posted something online and someone goes, oh my God, I can't believe you believe that clearly. And you're like, oh, fuck, I totally misspoke. God damn it. My words did not type out correctly. Where if Sean and I are talking, where you're face-to-face or even online, and Sean goes, wait a minute. Yeah, you're going down the wrong path. I meant this other thing. So choosing your words carefully becomes very important because when it's play-by-post, every word you use is being scrutinized. Not only because I don't get any visual clues, right, but I want all the context, all the subtext, all the whatever I can pull out of the text to make the world alive to me. So you need more physical descriptors, right? Big, how they're talking. You can't mimic anything because you're not doing the talking yourself. You can't try some accent. You can't do whatever. You've got to put parenthetical, in a Southern Belle voice, in a Cockney accent. Sounds like he's from the east side of Berlin. You have to put something in there every time to help denote things because all of those pieces and parts are clues. And it's like reading a novel, right? You want to have all those words because it helps you solve whatever the mystery or investigation, whatever it is you're going through. All of the words that the game master puts down, all of the words that the player puts down are critically important. I dodged to the left. So you're going this way. Oh, crap, I forgot there's a wall over it. No, I need to dodge to the right. That could be a 5-post back and forth of I fuck something up. So you're trying to be very cautious. So anyway, long story short, I think you're dead on, Sean. There's a definitive heavier lifting with the words at that point.
Just imagine doing walkie-talkie, but the other person doesn't respond for like an hour.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And the other thing is if you're doing it in a large community, like a Google Plus community, where I've done most of it as of late, and when I say as of late, I mean within the last 3 to 4 years, everybody can see it. So it's harder to have private conversations if you're doing something, even more intimate, like where Sean and Brett are talking, and then I go talk to Lenny, and then I go talk to Ange, and then when I'm done, I bring the 3 of them together to have the bigger discussion. There's some post-management that can have to happen there, right? Like, hey, do I have different communities for individual stuff? I mean, the simplistic answer is like if you're using a free place like that to post, is like everything that's out there is open for everybody to see, no different than gaming openly at a table. And you try to get people to make sure that they don't do something stupid and use information that Ange brings out to your advantage because your character isn't there. No different than you would at a table. But the same type of conversations can still happen, right?
Right.
So, Sean, when you have done it, did you have any system that you used in the past, or any? Let's throw that out. Is there any game system you can think of off the top of your head that would work best for this, or something? If I said, "Hey, I'm going to do this," or you'd want to do it, do you have any system you would think, "Hey, that's a good one for this"?
I don't know. I would say something more abstract. Obviously, less tactical. Just because tactics end up getting into the nuances of positioning and all kinds of different things. I think you can still do it. I just think it's easier if you did it more narrative. I mean, powered by the Apocalypse games, they're probably going to shine quite a bit, I think, in play-by-post.
Diceless systems
would be just one system. Diceless. I
mean,
sure.
I go back to Amber because that's the one I'm most familiar with. But Active Exploits is another diceless system. There's Shadows and Gossamer, which is a slightly different variation on the Amber theme. But diceless ones because they're all about narrative positioning. But any game that's heavy into narrative positioning for stuff. One of the questions I used to get from my players is like, do you want me to roll? I'd be like, sure, if you have some dice with you, you have a die roller, roll and tell me what you got. But a lot of time it just came down to actually collaborative storytelling, like storyboarding something in a room, like saying what happens next. What's the most interesting thing that should occur? But if you are going to have a system with die rolling mechanics, card flipping mechanics, or whatever, the other piece is to make sure you and your players have absolute trust in each other, because unless you're using some kind of an electronic media, or even if you're doing old school play by mail, you're trusting people to roll the dice, use whatever tool they're using, and then tell you what the results are, which can slow things down. So I would think that a PBTA style game with minimal checks and or the types of checks are more prescriptive in how they result. Like, hey, a 3 to 5 does this, a 7 to 9 or whatever. I don't know the complete scale very well, but knowing how those things function are more prescriptive, at least, and maybe that's a loaded term. But and then a game like Amber, where hey, if you're the best at this thing, you win, unless the other person out narratives you. So those type of systems, I would think, would probably work better. I've done it with Pathfinder. I've done it with D&D, and a lot of it came down to much more narrative discussion. A lot of the hardcore tactical, I move 5 feet, I check here, I do this, got hand wavy, whitewash, just to simplify it for the format, right? Because you don't have a grid in front of you to move the characters around and make sure it works perfectly well. 5e would probably play different theater of the mind style games that are heavier that way, again with more narrative positioning. Just a better solution, I think.
Yeah, I
would
agree.
you do? I think like a Google Plus community or Facebook group seems like the most logical free type of thing, but I haven't checked Obsidian Portal in forever, so I don't know if they have anything that would do that or not. Email is okay, but email's dying. I mean, it's just kind of a dinosaur type of damn near as good as putting a stamp on something. Is there a better format that you can think of or that you know of?
Well, there's some specific, which I should have probably thought about putting it in a die roll, but there's some specific online websites that are geared around just play-by-post.
Okay.
So they have different ways of posting and breaking it down and cross-posting to a different area, so you could segment the messages only to go to Brett and only go to this person, and then bringing it back. So I got to imagine that they're potentially based on the old forum formats. And I say old because they still exist, but I mean, forums have been around for a while.
Okay. That makes sense. I honestly didn't even look into that, but you're right. I have heard of them. I've heard people reference them online, but I don't frequent them, so I don't know what they're looking like right now. If there's a listener out there who's using them or has some favorites that they want to share, that would be awesome, because I'm sure Michael Parker isn't the only person out there who, if nothing else, if you're not interested in it, it's another style and approach to gaming that even if you haven't thought of doing it before, if there are decent formats out there or examples of play for these types of environments, it might be really cool to be able to take a look at them and see what they are. So if people have some links or any ideas that they could throw to us, that'd be pretty cool to see. I have done it via email as well back in the day before, because my buddies and I weren't necessarily big into forums and stuff. A lot of it started for me with, when it came down to email, was downtime. I talked about this a little bit before, where I would be gaming once a month, where we'd be playing a pretty intense campaign. The guys would be like, I want to do some stuff before the next game. Can I do that? I'd be like, yes, everybody has 2 weeks of downtime. Email me what you get accomplished. Then we'd have kind of a back and forth. I want to try these 10 things. So you get 6 of them done. Shit. Okay, thanks. So I guess where I'm going with that is the other component of play-by-post is that it can augment. We talked about this a little bit before when we touched on the whole playing away from the table thing, but it can be a way to augment your game. And it ties in kind of nicely, I think, to the Wes Marches type of approach, is that is more meta, right? But there's plenty of fun components to it where you should be sharing all the information you found. You go back to the inn in, the West Farthing, which is the safe haven for the campaign. and you show up at the Copper Cup and you say, wow, we just went to the lair of the Barheist and we just found this, 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 and this. Can anybody make heads or tails of it? And then that type of gaming is essentially play by post, where you put something out there and waiting for someone to respond to you. And it's not organized insofar as people are necessarily rolling die checks or whatever, or maybe they do, I don't know. But it's another way to keep activity happening between game sessions, or to have private discussions with smaller subgroups in a larger campaign setting. So I think play-by-post, even if it's not the sole format for your RPG session, it could be an augmentation, possibly, for your regular, more traditional approaches, in that including online gaming too.
Yes, I agree.
Really? That's good. I was waiting for it depends.
Yeah. No. No depends. No
None
depends.
this time. Do you think now would you use play by post to do an augmentation type thing like that?
I would. Yes.
So I was just thinking, because if you want to run a West Marches game, it feels like that type of thing's gonna pop up. It's going to pop up, right? Somebody, like I said, we're going to come back to West Farthing or wherever the hell your home city is, and someone's going to say, "Oh my God, I just found this thing." Wait, the wizardess, whomever knows this thing, so let's go find her and talk to her. And it happens to, of course, be, Eileen's character or whatever it is. You got to go find this person or talk to Brandon's character and figure out what's going on. So I think it makes sense.
Well, I think it'll end up like that, or either meta. Like, it'll just be, hey, we went off, found these things. Who wants to go off and explore some more? I want to go over to this area. Who's with me? Blah, blah, blah. Rinse, repeat. Rumors. Here's some rumors. You find this one by this person. Find this one by that person.
No, actually, that brings up.
So I think
that's a really good point. Is some of the play-by-post war games used to happen. When I say that, it was the old school, lick a stamp, stick it on an envelope, and send it out. They would process your turns once a month or once every couple weeks. They were very meta. They were like, hey, General, County Corwin was destroyed. We're moving on. The barony. After that, we want to go to, the West Marches. Well, we failed at the barony. We just got the report back from the front. This didn't work. Shit. So your play-by-post game can be a level higher. It doesn't always have to be Brett and Sean interacting, game master, player, character. You could do, if you wish, more of a mass combat thing where you have generals back home and your characters, are in charge of armies. And they say, this is what we want to do, or they're kings or whatever. And this may be another thing we bug Hobbs about for the access to Adventure Conqueror King. But when you take it to a higher level where you're not always on the front lines, you're trying to expand out into the wilderness. Think about the people who are kind of funding, if you will, the West Marches campaign, right? The kings or queens that are vying for this wild land that's out there to be explored. And they're getting the reports back from the adventurers that have gone out and done things. They're giving new plugs and pushes for the characters to go. But anyway, instead of being character-on-character action or NPCs and so on, you can take it up a level for your play-by-post gaming and have it be more of a very meta or a kind of a war gamey type feel too. Or, hey, did this work? I sent my group of adventurers. I'm in charge of 5 adventurers. I sent them into the Dungeon of Despair. Who came out? What clues did we find? What did we learn? Well, Sean, your 5 adventurers, 2 of them died. Unfortunate. But here's the 5 clues. Here's the 60,000 gold pieces and the +2 sword you found. Great. I'll go to the inn and find some more characters and so on and so forth. So you could even bubble it up a level higher and do away with some of the very detailed discussions and have it be more of a command and control perspective where you're sending a squad of something to go take care of a problem. And then the game master simply reports the results of said squad's actions. I think that could be kind of fun too.
Yeah, I don't know if you know this, but Flying Buffalo is one of the first play-by-mail companies.
Did they? Was it Flying Buffalo?
And I think they're still going. I'm on their website, and their last update of the play-by-mail section was September 9th,
Holy shit. Damn.
Yeah, I read that in the game. There was that that series that was kickstarted. It wasn't by Evil Hat, but I think Fred Hicks was involved. It's all those gaming and designers.
Okay. Oh, Designers and Dragons.
Books that are
Designers and
colorful.
Dragons.
Designers and Dragons. And I believe when you look up Flying Buffalo, if you're not familiar with Flying Buffalo, they are the ones that came out with Tunnels and Trolls.
Yes.
But they had play by mail, and I think they're still doing it to this day. So we'll have a link in the show notes if you want to get in on a game, because they have different games listed that you can join, and it's broken down by category. But anyways, another thing we did not touch on with play-by-post is not only the rules, like house rules, but you have to get into, almost have to have a set of house rules, because you have to consider things that are not broken down into the regular game. So in a regular game, you just be like, even in a Dungeon Master's Guide, if you pull up the 5e DMG and it talks about, oh, how do you play a role-playing game? And here are some things to consider. And, oh, don't forget snacks. And, here are the different personalities that you may encounter at the game. I mean, it's a very comprehensive guide, but there are many things that it does not cover when you're dealing with play-by-post, which is, some people will say, if you're in character, you italicize your words. If it's like rules or you're asking outside of character, then you're doing it in another thread, or you're doing it in bold text. Or what all those subtle nuances come into play. And so there's guides, I'm sure, online, which we haven't Googled and put in the show notes, but I'm sure there are guides.
It's format, right? It's all format.
All format.
That's very cool. I like that idea.
So,
well, sweet man. If there's, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that some people will run. Here's the out of character section. Here is the in character section, and it's two different forums, and however they want to do that and organize it, and whatever you're using and permissions wise. But yeah, the formatting comes into play. Or what happens when you get into combat? Okay, you're going to roll 3 dice, and you're going to tell me your next 3 actions, and then I'm going to tell you what happens. And oh, by the way, I'm going to put a date down or a timeline. And, everything when we get into combat is you have 3 days to respond or whatever that is. So you stipulate. And if it's not 3 days, then I'm going to narrate it. So then you're almost taking it out where Brett was talking about, well, I can't show up and this person can't post. We can work around it. You can actually stipulate deadlines. So here's the deal. Blah, 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 blah. I'm looking for your response no later than Friday end of day. And if not, I will take control of the situation and tell you what happens.
Speak now, loser.
Yeah, and this is what's going to happen, and then, so you miss that one. Big deal. And then you can come back, and what happens if you miss more than 3? And, what if you don't respond in more than 3 weeks, 3 months? How does that dealt? And then so there's a lot of nuances that we didn't get into on actually running a play-by-post, but I just mentioned some that you may want to consider when looking into it.
Very cool. I'll tell you what, if there's people out there who have done this, I'm certain there are. Some of our listeners are either actively doing this, have done it in the past, and whatnot. Excuse me. Sean and I have once again shown our vast ignorance on certain topics, and I'm sure there are people doing it better, smarter, and faster than all the things we've talked about. So hit us up with some links, ideas, and various other things, and we'll be happy to share them around because, like I said, I'm sure Michael Parker is not the only person out there who is at all interested in seeing what this is like. So, hey, share the wealth, man. Shall we?
All right, let's get into die roll. Die roll. All right, 2 to 4 miscellaneous points, topics of geekery, inspiration we want to bring to you. Brett, go ahead.
I got 2 of them. One of them is a bit of just gameable fun, is that there is apparently a theory, of course bizarre, that the actual year, it is not 2017. The actual year is 1720.
What?
Because the early Middle Ages, they were faked. Totally faked. Yeah.
What?
Fake history, fake news, fake all that shit, man. So anyway, link in the show notes. That I thought was kind of cool.
Fake news. Not just happening in the 21st century.
Exactly. It's yellow journalism, but for the Middle Ages. So I did some digging while we were on the old cast here, and De Profundis is indeed still around. It is there's a second edition. Cubicle 7 owns it. If you go to drive-thru, follow our affiliate link, that'd be awesome. Damn thing is on sale for $6.20 right now. Utilizing a mix of letter writing, email, and text-based gaming, depending on your chosen era of play, it's a perfect game for the modern, time-strapped gamer. So, looks kind of cool. I think I might have to grab myself a little PDF copy of this and maybe give her a go with some of my buddies. But anyway, De Profundis is still alive and still there. Sean, over to you.
All right. So, as this has made its rounds, D&D campaign running for 35 years. There's a gentleman who videoed it and has, again, made its rounds on social media and some other news propagation
Man, I thought
sites.
my 15-year campaign was like fucking kick ass. I'm nothing. That's like less than half of this man's. Man, I suck. Chump change.
Chump change.
Nothing. I'm gonna go cry.
No dedication.
None.
No dedication.
Just that's it. I'm done. I'm burning my books. Hang on, I'll be back.
All right. Ethan Gilsdorf, who is the author of Fantasy Freaks and Game and Geeks, which is a book I've read. I thought it was quite entertaining. He tweeted on Twitter, and he reenacts the 80s. So he's inspired by Tales from the Loop and, of course, Stranger Things, which had just dropped this past Friday. So he did a big expose. What is it? I think the Boston Globe put it out there. And you see him kind of talking about the 80s, riding a bike with a banana seat and sissy bar. Friggin' awesome, man. So I told him, I'm like, dude, and he chimed in with Watsy, because they were playing D&D in there. I'm like, dude, you got to play Tales from the Loop. I never heard of it. And I said,
dude,
here it is. Here's a link.
Did you really?
You'd kill it.
Nicely
I did.
done.
I'm like, here, this is where you go and check it out. So hopefully he'll see that. But anyways, if you're a fan of the 80s or running Tales from the Loop or even the latest one, Monster Hunters Club or something, I think for Savage Worlds, that was pimped on the last show. Check that out for some inspiration. Next one, The Uncanny Resurrection of Dungeons and Dragons. That's featured in the New Yorker. New Yorker's got some really good articles, exposés. This one they're very good length, right? They're not puff pieces. So check that out. It's making its rounds as well. Next one, Dungeons and Dragons wouldn't be what it is today without these women. So this is on Kotaku, which is a pretty popular geek site. They put out tabletop and video game geek culture articles. So check that out. A little bit of history about the women behind D&D. And then the next one, Ryan Hiller's blog, geekdad.com, has an article on play-by-post gaming. So here's something that was dated in February of this year, 2017, where he talks a little bit about play-by-post and mentions a couple forums and some things to keep note of. Check that out. And then lastly for me, Flying Buffalo, play-by-mail. Just click on it. You're going to get taken back in time when you go to that website. It looks like something that was put up there in 1992 or 93. Straight HTML.
Good God, that thing's ugly as shit. I'm on it right now.
No CSS. So if you want to play by mail, there it goes. And I mean, I'm telling you, I read about it, and that's like how the company got off the ground was people, and they would you pay like a subscription or a fee to them to manage it. And they would make sure everything was updated and routed and I don't know, all kinds of stuff. But anyways, you want to mention the listeners there?
Absolutely. Ezra Rocha, friend of the show, points out an interactive map of Sigil, City of Doors from the old Planescape setting. I was looking at that while Sean was rambling there, and it's pretty freaking cool. It's really, really cool. So take a look at that. Link in the show notes. And Kev Thulu, again, another friend of the show and buddy of mine and Sean's personally. Lakes of Mercury and Human Sacrifices. After 1,800 years, Teotihuacan reveals its treasures. Of course, this is incredibly gameable. So go take a look at that. That is really, really cool stuff.
Yeah. I want to thank Steve C. at Hogtown Games for the Dice Roll Zine. Posted that a few episodes ago where I found it, and then he actually sent me a copy. So pretty cool. I may take it to Gamehole, just have it on the table for anybody who wants to take a look at it. I thought it was pretty cool. I want to also welcome Laramie Wall to the fellow BSers. Laramie went on Google Plus, said, "Hey, found you guys, blah, blah, blah. Just want to let you know." So thanks so much for finding us and sticking with us. It sounds like he's in progress of starting at 1 and listening forward. So you're muted, Brett.
That's all right.
Anyways,
no, I just
Brett.
had to taking it all in is what I was doing.
Right. What are we talking about next week, Brett?
Because
Oh,
it depends.
it
Because
depends.
guess what? Next weekend is Sunday, last day of Gamehole Con. Hooah! So
This time next week, we will be thoroughly exhausted.
We may just have to do a show at the con through our raspy, scratchy voices and kind of wrap that up. But one of the cool things that, just from a raw podcasting perspective, that is really neat from Gamehole Con is after we meet listeners, friends of the show, just friends of ours, people who don't even fucking listen to us, but are just friends of ours because they're just great people. I learned so much about gaming just going to these conventions, talking to people, bumping into Jen Brinkman, learn what she's up to, talk to all these other gamers, just all these really cool people. And I get topic ideas and really cool concepts of, hey, what's out there and what's going on, which just kind of feeds the show. So we'll see, man. It totally depends on what do we learn. What do we learn this year at Gamehole Con? We'll bring it back and share it with you.
Wow. Jeez, man, that's a good wrap up, Brett. I don't know how I could do it any better. All right. Well, having said that, this show brought to you with the help from the following patrons. As long as I can bring it up as I kind of draw it out here, bringing up the names. You'd think I'd have them all memorized by now,
I think
Brett.
you would.
Christian Sexy Voice Serrano, Kevin Lovecraft, Joe Swick, Brett's biggest fan, Jeff Rademacher, Forrest DeGary, Mark Anthony Benedetti, Eric Jepson, Annie Hall, Sean Nicholson, Jem Jensen, Knights of the Night Crew, Palladian, Remy Bellodo, Jason Hobbs, Wayne Humphrey, James Carpio, Pure Mongrel, Lord Tentacle, Corey Johnson, Brandon Barnes, Tim Shorts, Dan LaValle, CW Mellencamp, Lost Sailor, Graham Miner, Tom McGowan, Roger Bryson, Mr. Egmore Productions. Old School DM, Jason, Christopher Gray, Finolf, Marco Froelich, Eileen Barnes, Tony Sugarloaf, Baker, Todd Crapper, Jim Fitzpatrick, Michael Drescher, With Static, Alexander Auerbach, Rodrigo Beowulf, Neil Benson, Ron Blessing, Chris Steele, Eric Hoffman, Soldiers of Misfortune, RPG, Christopher Lang, Curtis Takahashi, Gordon Cranford, Mark Tasaka, Larry Hout, Evan Harrison, Cass, Ray Otis, Mark, CMG, Culver, Eli Kurtz, Ron Bishop, Stephen Dragonspawn, Craig Huber, Xavier G, JV, Matt Stark, John Hammersley, Derelict Radio, John Steve, Jared Rasher, and Mark Richmond. For the cost of a coffee shop coffee, you could support the show for an entire month. Consider heading over to gamingandbs.com/Patreon, Patreon. Thanks, friends.
That was pretty good, man.
Thanks, buddy.
And
I'm one of your hosts,
Good night
Sean.
and good game and all.